India has been accused, its officials have been accused of criminal activity and serious criminal activity, like murdering people. Like one country, if you saw the front page of the Globe yesterday, a very well-recognized writer, Andrew Cohen, said India has become a now terrorist state. India has now become a terrorist state, was what the headline that he wrote. So this is now, a bigger issue than Canada, and it's unfortunate for India that they have a government who is not willing to participate in the criminal investigation, and in fact looks like they may be part of the whole criminal activity, which would be very unfortunate. And the whole world is watching very closely now. And in India's talk of being a democracy will be totally destroyed, and a country that goes by the rule of law will be totally destroyed. And I think their credibility will drop substantially, which will be unfortunate. India has totally refused any cooperation whatsoever. And if you look at their communication, they keep changing it. First they said there's no evidence. Then they say, well, it's not credible evidence, which means it's credible is very subjective. You can say, well, to us. So now when the RCMP now, which is a very respected all over the world, and, in Canada, as you know, there, politicians don't instruct our police or our judges. They have a wall there. They are independent of politicians. So they've come out and they've said that they've got evidence at government officials. So then they said, well, your ambassador, we like to speak to them. So, and some of your staff, we'd like to speak to them. Can you offer them and give them, remove their diplomatic immunity? Indian government refused to say you will not allow to question some of the government officials, so therefore we had to kick them out. Now, we kicked them out, but the Indian government then said, we called them back because of their safety, which is not true. So every time the Indian government, really now, it's just not Canada. It's no longer just Canada.
What should Canada be doing now, going forward? Because
I think there's a number of things we can do. I think they should be looking at sanctions, number one, against India. Number two, I think citizens who are outraged by this, and there are many who are outraged, they should be boycotting until we get this resolved or until Modi's government deals with it. We should be boycotting, and everybody can play a role in sending a strong message to India. Boycott if you have travel plans to India, boycott it. If you're buying India products, boycott it. This will send a very strong message that this kind of behavior involving criminal activity, killing people, harassing people on another country is simply unacceptable. And all of us can make a difference. We can speak out, and I ask our whole community, if we can boycott and we have a strong voice. Boycott traveling to India, boycott buying products. And people in India, please hold your government accountable. I ask the media of India, do not be the mouthpiece of the Modi government. You have, as journalists, have a responsibility to get to the truth. Hold your government accountable instead of just being mouthpieces for the government. And then they can do a great service, not only to India, but beyond. And I make that appeal to them.
Dhilwal sir, that's a very strong thing to say, though. Don't you think that would further escalate things if there are sanctions by Canada on India and by the rest of the world? That would really make things worse, don't you think?
Well, I was there when the apartheid discussion took place in South Africa. And this debate took place about sanctions. And many said, well, that would make things worse in South Africa, particularly for the people of South Africa. And I remember meeting many years later, with the ambassador of South Africa, and I said, were we correct in putting these boycotts and the sanctions, economic sanctions against South Africa? He said yes, because the end result speeded up and we were able to get our freedoms much faster. So I think there has to be a strong message to India. I'm not saying those should be there for decades. I think they should be there till we see the government do something about this, that there's a strong message there that the rest of the world is sending them. This type of behavior is unacceptable. It's against international law. It's against the rule of law. And if India wants to be a major player in the international community, then it has to abide by the international law and by the rule of law. And all of us can do something about it. We can say we're not going to buy Indian goods. We're not going to travel to India for holidays until such time we feel the government has dealt with this appropriately.